German Chancellor Angela Merkel sparking some controversy, suggesting Germany should ban full-face veils, often worn by Muslim women, also speaking out against Sharia law. Her comments raise questions about how other European nations handle that controversial issue. Senior Foreign Affairs correspondent Greg Palkot joins us live from London with more. Greg.
John, some tough talk on a hot-button issue. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, best known recently for allowing in 1 million immigrants into her country, getting a big response with that reference to Muslim-based Sharia law, conjuring up an image of tough and harsh law and order as seen in some Muslim countries, a parallel justice system being transplanted to the West. Take a listen.
It's like captured, like I was saying, the popular imagination, and people are afraid that if people come to their countries that they won't integrate and that they will try to, impose Sharia law.
The reality is a bit different than that, though. For example, here in the UK, there are 30 so-called Sharia councils known and allowed by the government. They deal mostly with marriage, divorce, and other civil matters, kind of a Muslim code. But even here, there is criticism, especially from Muslim women, complaining about a male-dominated Sharia system, calling one critic saying it's discriminatory and abusive. One more note, though, John. A recent poll in France finding that 30% of the Muslims questioned, 46% of the young Muslims questioned, said that they would put Sharia law over French law. At least food for thought. Back to you.
Yeah, unbelievable. Greg Palkot, thanks.
Christians may well be the most persecuted religious group on the planet. They number some 2.2 billion people, and harassment can range from loss of life to loss of livelihood.
Including discrimination, you're talking 600, 700 million Christians.
In about two-thirds of the world, Christians of one stripe or another face some sort of harassment.
It goes back to the time of Jesus and his disciples, but is increasing rapidly in this new century.
Christians in innumerable countries are under huge amounts of pressure, either from the government or from the societies in which they find themselves.
Throughout the 20th century, communist countries caused the most problems for Christians. Today, however, the fear and harassment is shifting to the Muslim world. Open Doors USA tracks this persecution and puts out a watch list every January of the worst offenders. Open Doors President Carl Muller says in this year's top 10,
8 of those are Islamic countries.
Iraq jumped into the top 10 this year because of many recent brutal attacks, like the massacre of 58 Christians in a Baghdad church this past October.
The level of brutality is almost unbelievable.
We're actually labeling it a religious side, as extremists there want to exterminate all Christians from the country of Iraq.
Muslim extremists in Pakistan have been killing Christians at an increasing rate for what they call blasphemy against Islam and the Prophet Muhammad.
Christians are being accused of blaspheming Islam by converting from Islam to Christianity.
This violence is even happening in Muslim countries that were seen as more secular.
Christians have started to be killed on religious grounds in Turkey. That's new.
How do Muslims justify this hatred against Christians?
They're infidels, they're unbelievers in what is a Muslim land.
We say thank you to every police officer and law enforcement agent who's out tonight protecting us, black, white, Latino, of every race, every color, every creed, every sexual orientation. When they come to save your life, they don't ask if you are black or white. They just come to save you. How or why people serving America are killed? We must not be afraid to define our enemy. It is Islamic extremist terrorism.
The coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Like British monarchs before her, she promised to maintain the laws of God and the true profession of the gospel. But Britain today is at war with the gospel and with itself. Christians who try to be Christians in the workplace risk being demoted or fired, and the government continues to push an aggressive gay rights agenda, while threatening to criminalize Christian speech and practice. Christian politician and activist George Hargraves.
Yesterday, I got a letter from the Advertising Standards Authority of a complaint saying that my billboard that says Britain is a Christian country is offensive to atheists and other religions, and it incites hatred against them. What nonsense. Britain is constituted as a Christian country. Daily prayers are said in Parliament, whether atheists like it or not. The Queen is head of the Church of England and therefore has to acknowledge God for her sovereignty over the nation. These things are written into not just our culture and our heritage, but into our Constitution.
It is slow going for the Iraqi army in its effort to recapture Mosul. Senior Foreign Affairs correspondent Greg Palcott tells us perhaps even slower than we thought.
More than 6 weeks into efforts to get ISIS out of the Iraqi city of Mosul, and the fight is not looking any easier. Just 20% of Mosul so far has been freed of the militants by Iraqi forces backed by U.S. airstrikes and support, according to the U.S. coalition spokesman in Baghdad.
The Iraqi security forces are working very hard to get this done, but they're up against a fanatical enemy, very dangerous fighting in the streets.
Making things more complicated, the million-plus residents of Mosul thought to still be in the city. Some are being executed by ISIS, many more being used as human shields. And they are suffering. Along with shortages of food and medicine, clashes have knocked out clean drinking water for over 500,000.
We have nothing. No running water and no electricity. We've not had water for almost 20 days.
A rare quiet became another day of war, shattering a ceasefire only hours after it started, and crushing a bit of hope that the agony of Aleppo was over, especially for those still trapped in what's left of their homes in the east of the city.
Oh my God. All the people were, let's say, psyched and happy with the agreement about leaving and evacuating the city finally. And they were just preparing themselves, and they think that the regime is going to take ground for them.
Good morning, my friends. Tens of shells are raining down on the besieged areas in Aleppo. There are injured in the field hospitals, injured as a result of the bombardment by the regime forces and allied Iranian militias.
And yet, before first light, the Green government buses had pulled up to the edges of East Aleppo. That was the deal.
Got some urgent news now. President Obama just started a new Cold War with Russia. This is not good news. According to Danny Gold at Liberty Writers News, he reports that President Barack Obama is not exactly known for making good decisions. Just take a look at the Middle East. Take a look at Obamacare. He writes, still, even with those disasters, they cannot begin to compare to his threat to Russia last night. He writes, last night, Obama thought it was a good idea to promise a retaliation to Russia for their unproven election hacks. Unproven. Unproven because no one has presented any actual evidence of these hacks. None. Even when Congress has called for it, the intelligence committees have called for it, the CIA says, nah, we're not going to show you.
We begin with the latest news from the magnitude 7.8 earthquake which has struck New Zealand. At least 6 strong aftershocks measuring more than magnitude 5 have been felt in the region. The tremors knocked out power in some areas and sent people into streets across the country. A tsunami hit the northeast coast of the South Island, and New Zealand's civil defence asked residents on the east coast of the island to seek higher ground. The US Geological Survey says the quake was just 10 kilometres deep and struck 91 kilometres northeast of the city of Christchurch soon after midnight. Here is what local people have had to say.
This one was quite a rolling quake. What concerned us is the duration of the quake. It was quite a strong quake. We experienced over in Wanaka a number of years ago a 7.9 in the Fiordlands. This was probably more intense than that one. It was a long quake, not one that we've experienced that sort of duration before.
Good evening. Outbreak. As we come on the air, tornadoes are on the ground in Oklahoma. One reported to be a mile wide at the start of what is expected to be a dangerous evening in that part of the country. This ominous tornado captured on live cameras as it roared outside Oklahoma City just a short time ago. Oklahoma, along with parts of northeastern Texas and Arkansas, are under tornado watches right now, with severe thunderstorm watches posted into Nebraska. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is in the danger zone with late-breaking details.
Late today, a powerful tornado touching down near Wynnewood, Oklahoma.
That's an F4 tornado. That's violent motion.
Tonight, parts of Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas under tornado warnings or watches. In the bullseye for relentless wind and hail, as 18 million Americans are at risk for severe weather.
Storms likely to go well past dark tonight from Kansas City to St. Louis, pushing south into Memphis, and likely including Little Rock as well. Tornadoes are not out of the question.
The menacing, slow-moving line of storms is slogging east after producing wild weather over the weekend.
Mike, I can't see any debris under it, but that's going to be your tornado right there. It's a big white cone right now.
This brief tornado near Marlow, Oklahoma. In Lawton, flash floods and high winds stranded drivers in their cars. In West Texas, pounding hail up to the size of baseballs, while this twister was spotted in Kansas. The sprawling system also spawned tornadoes across Colorado, slicing through this neighborhood.
Shocking. Disturbing find in the Hamptons, a canal full of tens of thousands of dead fish. What could have caused this? CBS 2's Alice Gaynor in the newsroom with more for us. Alice.
Christine, this massive die-off involves bunker fish in the Shinnecock Canal in Hampton Bays. Quite a sight for many to behold. Dead fish as far as the eye can see.
There are thousands and thousands of them down there.
The sight forced many to do a double take.
I thought it was frost in the morning.
Many couldn't believe what they were seeing and smelling, lining up to watch and take pictures.
First time I've seen this in my whole life. They're not just floating on top of the water, they're actually stepping from the bottom up.
The bunker fish were in the Shinnecock Canal this morning, but then the locks were opened and out they went into the bay.
They're all dead up on the beach and in the water behind the building. I actually talked to a couple of DEC officers today. They said they'd never seen it bad before.
The DEC, or State Department of Environmental Conservation, says it's investigating. Local experts believe they know the cause.
There was a large school of big bluefish in the bay earlier on Sunday. I had a bunch of friends catching fish that were 15 to 20 pounds, and bluefish eat bunker. And they chase the bunker, and when they chase them into a canal like this and the locks are closed, the fish can't escape. And when they get pushed in the numbers of millions, they quickly deplete the oxygen.
So now, a free meal for a lot of young birds who prey on bunker, and an early gift for some fishermen.
Only on 7 tonight, a horrific discovery in this creek. Dozens and dozens of dead birds found along the banks. We do want to warn you, you may find some of these pictures disturbing. 7 Action News reporter Aaron Baskerville is live in Woodhaven, where neighbors want some answers. Aaron.
Heather, neighbors have no idea what's going on. They're trying to get to the bottom of this. Right now, we're along Marsh Creek in Woodhaven on Arlington Drive. And take a look down here. You can see the footprints in the mud. That's where the DNR was out here earlier today collecting dozens and dozens of dead birds with large garbage bags. For now, neighbors out here do not want their kids or pets near the water.
They're all the way to the bridge. From here were ducks. Dead ducks.
There's a mystery brewing along the Marsh Creek on Arlington Drive in Woodhaven. A neighbor showing Action News a dead bird he collected the other day.
They're nesting here.
Hassan Lakas walking us back to what he considers a graveyard. Dead ducks and ducklings.
Last time she left and I think she got sick.
In his front yard, he found a nest abandoned along with eggs.
It was about 30 ducks over here on this side.
Cell phone video shows a duck struggling to survive. Neighbors snapped a photo of the DNR investigating earlier today, collecting more than a dozen dead birds in large garbage bags.
Say about 46 birds, specifically grackles, have been littering the sidewalks and lawns. Some of the birds were saved, but nearly 4 dozen of them died. And the situation does not only concern the birds. One person's cat had to be euthanized after it too fell ill.
We don't know what's going on. Could it be a virus that they got very quickly? Could it be a intentional poisoning? Could it be something that was introduced into them that was non-intentional but harmed them?
Until health officials get the mystery solved, they're warning people to watch their pets in this neighborhood and make sure when they're outside, don't let those pets eat anything off the ground.
We're part of a coalition that today is delivering nearly 5 million comments to EPA, asking them to keep the hives alive by banning bee-killing pesticides. Our message is simple. No bees means no food. We need to give bees a chance, and we need EPA to ban bee-killing pesticides. 1 in 3 bites of food that we eat, including everything from apples to coffee, chocolate to watermelons, is actually pollinated by bees. The Keep the Hives Alive tour is basically trucking these dead bees around, and there's 2.6 million dead bees. That's only 75 hives. And basically the point of the tour is to go to 7 cities and here in Washington, D.C. to make the point that bees are dying. We don't need any symbolism. We have the actual dead bees, unfortunately.
This past year, I personally in our operation lost 50% of our hives. Pollinators are an indicator that something is desperately wrong in our agricultural system. But I think it is ultimately important to actually bring these conversations to the people that actually regulate and make the policies that go into implementing them. I think that people need to know that if we don't change sometime soon, I don't really know what the consequences are going to be, but our entire way of living with food in the agricultural system is tied to pollinators, and it's kind of a scary thing when you see them kind of going awry.
It's the female mosquitoes that pose a danger. They need blood to gain the proteins they require for reproduction. Their sting can transfer viruses, bacteria, or parasites to the host. And despite their short lifespan, mosquitoes can bite a large number of people. Even more worryingly, they sometimes pass on viruses that can also be transmitted from mother to child. 3,500 kinds of stinging mosquitoes are known. Only some of them are dangerous. One of them is the Anopheles mosquito. It can carry the malaria virus, which is visible under a microscope. Here colored blue. Last year alone, malaria claimed the lives of almost 500,000 people and made 214 million ill. The virus spreads in moist, warm conditions. Asian tiger mosquitoes spread a large number of viruses, among them yellow fever and dengue. The WHO warns the number of infections has grown dramatically in recent years. Last year, 2.5 million people were affected. Egyptian tiger mosquitoes are at the center of a worldwide health emergency. They transmit the Zika virus, which can cause severe birth defects in babies whose mothers contract the virus during pregnancy. It's been spreading rapidly in recent years and has now been identified in 40 countries. The main challenge to overcoming the transmission of such diseases is that mosquitoes not only propagate quickly, they also continuously evolve. Many are now immune to common insecticides, and this is how the tiny mosquito continuously eludes our attempts to control the great dangers they pose to global health.
We may be closer to understanding a disturbing health trend, the to this point unexplained increasing death rate of white middle-aged Americans. Nobel Prize-winning economist Angus Deaton and his wife, fellow economist Ann Case, released a study showing from 1999 to 2013 the death rate of middle-aged white people who have a high school education or less increased at an astonishing rate. What's more, the rising rate didn't come from heart disease or any other medical conditions commonly associated with death rates. While lung cancer rates went down and diabetes remained stable, chronic liver disease, suicides, and especially alcohol and drug poisoning spiked.
Pretty quickly we started falling off our chairs because of what we found. So they get into middle age having their expectations just not met at all. And you introduce into that both legal and illegal drugs, and that could be just a very volatile mix.
Deaton says people with lower levels of education were ill-equipped for the Great Recession. If the white mortality rate had continued its previous downward trend, Deaton and Case wrote 500,000 deaths would have been avoided in the period from 1999 to 2013, comparable to the lives lost in the U.S. AIDS epidemic through mid-2015. It's important to note researchers did not see the same trends in other Western countries, and it isn't clear why the death rates increased only for middle-aged whites and not for black or Hispanic people. For Newsy, I'm Cliff Judy.
Thank you. We have coffee mugs and chocolate chip cookies.
At Deacon Ross's house, his mom is planning a party.
Struck up this friendship with OD. Looks forward to Friday.
Because in Deacon's world, Friday is OD Day.
Who is your best friend?
OD.
OD?
Down there.
Is he way down there?
Yeah.
Will he come back this way?
Yeah.
I think that this is Deacon's first friend, that he really understands what friendship is.
But this party is bittersweet. It's to say goodbye.
Mama.
Yes?
We heard OD's truck. It's our last day seeing my brother's best friend, OD. I'm coming.
And here he comes now, for the last time.
I'm coming.
Deacon's best friend, OD.
OD!
He's here, collect the recycling.
OD coming, OD coming, OD!
Here he comes! Good morning! Good, how are you?
What's up, man? I'm gonna collect our garbage.
Collect our garbage.
There you go.
1, 2, 3!
And always make time for a little buddy.
Oh, so sweet.
Hey, boy, you have it, man.
I know. Yeah, he is.
You have it, boy.
Did you know how much this boy loves you?
I didn't know, but I can see.
The reason it's a goodbye party is Deacon's about to become a big brother. He already has a name picked out.
He wants to name the baby OD.
But the family had to buy a bigger house. So they're moving off OD's garbage route.
But I don't think that he really understands that this could be the last time that he sees OD.
Thank you.
That's why his mom went to all this effort.
You're special to us.
Oh, man.
To honor Deacon's first friendship.
I was teary the whole time and just trying to relish the moment.
I'm gonna miss him too.
Bye-bye, OD.
Say see you soon.
You sure know how to make an impression on a little boy.
You take it easy, man.